Hi, before we start, there is a live chat where people can ask their questions and add comments during the session. I'd like to welcome everyone to CGI's Tech Career Lab. Today we're going to be talking about cloud. So my name is Yvonne Hale. I'm a senior talent acquisition partner. I have about 15 years of industry experience, and I've been a member of CGI since about 2020. So today I'm really excited to be chatting with Sheila Mason. Sheila is a cloud director with our emerging technology cloud practice. So, hi Sheila.
Hi,
You and
Bob.
I, you and I met last week for a chat, and I have to say I think we had a lot to talk about. So when I first meet someone, I like to learn how they started with their career. So I think once we introduce ourselves, if you could let the audience know how you started with your career, where that career evolution led you to CGI.
It would be my pleasure. I don't actually have a straight line from how I started my career to how I ended up with CGI, but I'll break it up for you into two parts. I started my career actually, I would say, in high school. I had an amazing high school teacher in my last year, which was OAC at the time. We had a grade 13, and she had me and three other students at the time spend 2 afternoons a week at Northern Telecom, which later became Nortel. And because of that experience, I think I had more confidence in applying to electrical engineering. And then through that education, I continued to work at Nortel through university and then after I graduated. So really started my career in telecommunications engineering. However, it was also the time of the dot-com boom. And so shortly after starting at Nortel, I did end up joining a startup. And in that startup was actually my first exposure to emerging tech at the time, which was, interestingly enough, the one that we were working on was called CGI, but it's not the same CGI. It was Common Gateway Interface. And what it was at the time, the websites were static HTML pages. And so CGI was a technology to allow us to take input from users, do something with it, usually with databases in behind, and then present results back. So what we ended up doing is creating 3D worlds, taking input from users, processing it with a lot of data in the back end, and presenting it back through 3D visualizations. It was pretty innovative at the time, very cool, and that's how I got started on my career. And so the second part of my career journey actually started because that part got disrupted with something amazing, which is my children. So I had kids. So because I had that happen to me, I ended up actually leaving the workforce for 5 years. And so when I came back, my career was 20 years of building new skills, all in tech, but around technical writing, project management, program management. I had significant roles in various business transformations. I was in management consulting, sales enablement, global shared services, and eventually Microsoft Cloud. And so I think it's a combination of those experiences and skills that really brought me to CGI, where I do work with our cloud team and drive our partnership with Microsoft.
That's a pretty interesting start. Wow.
Yeah.
And so when someone is meeting you for the first time, or how would you explain to them the emerging tech scene and what specifically you do and maybe who comprises your team? Because I know we touched on this in our previous conversation that you don't necessarily need to be technical to be in cloud. And so I'd like to know sort of who comprises your team and how that's made up and what you do within that team.
All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I guess I'll just start with cloud itself is a huge concept. So on our team specifically in emerging tech, it is a very technical team. So on my team, there are basically cloud engineers. So cloud engineers, cloud platform engineers, starting from new grad through director level, offering that capability and expertise into the many different accounts that we support across CGI in Canada. There are certainly roles for non-technical specialties in cloud, and that can be anything from business analysis, data analysis, training, helping customers understand their business vision around cloud, lots of organizational change management and training. But it does all start with training. So cloud isn't something you just walk into, but you can bring a lot of prior expertise and experiences and skills and foundations to then develop a fundamentals in cloud. And from there are so many different learning paths to take you on the career that you like in cloud. And I'll just specifically mention that on our team specifically, we have a wonderful cloud boot camp that takes our new grads who don't have specific cloud training, because that's not really what you learn in school, but it takes them through everything they need to learn about cloud so that when they do eventually get deployed on cloud engagements after 3 months of the boot camp, they are confident, they are ready, and they deliver excellent work.
Excellent. And so maybe you could walk us through maybe one of a project that you're currently working on and some of the challenges that you might see with our clients that they're facing with cloud.
So one of the projects that I'm actually working on that I'm really excited about is trying to transforming a little bit of some of our value that we can bring to our clients. So CGI has its own data centers and certainly has for many years offered really tremendous services to hosting client applications and workloads in our data centers. And the project that I'm working on is helping to expand that offering so that as our clients start to adopt hyperscalers as their cloud environment, that we can work with them to offer hybrid hosting solutions so that they don't have to choose between on-prem hosting with us or hosting with a public cloud provider, but we can work with them to offer both or a hybrid, because sometimes not every application is suitable for the cloud. So it just really increases the breadth of our offerings, and that's one of the things that I'm excited about. And the challenge then, of course, is understanding, which applications, are better off in the cloud versus on-prem. Maybe understanding what the roadmap is in certain cases to go from on-prem to cloud, if that's the direction. Sometimes organizationally, for different reasons, and a lot of it has to do with change management, the organization's not ready, but you still want to take advantage of some of the benefits of cloud. So how can we maybe create a private cloud solution to take advantage of some of those without really placing that application in the public cloud?
Thank you. And I guess I was reading your tech bio, and in your tech bio, you were talking about the transformation taking place in cloud. And I wanted to know if you could maybe talk to our audience a bit about that transformation that's currently taking place in cloud.
Yeah, so another really huge topic. Transformation is in itself changing everything about a business, through the people and the skills that people have, the processes, in this case, moving from traditional operations to cloud operations and what that looks like, the measures that we use for performance. So those get changed as well as you're transforming, and certainly the technology. So the transformation that is happening is businesses are able to take advantage of all the tremendous benefits that cloud offers, and to simplify it very, very simply, it's democratizing a lot of the compute resources and services that a lot of large companies used to have access to, but now every company can equally access those resources. And so the transformation is about how do you stay competitive? I guess it would be in the context of large companies, where a lot of the other, I'll just say, companies that did not used to be your competitors are now your competitors because they have access to the same resources. So how do you transform your services to compete in that environment? And then for the companies that are, taking advantage of cloud to become competitive where they could not before, how do they continue to innovate and stay at the head of technology, and how that services clients and customers, and how that continues to bring benefit.
And I guess this question just came to me. How do you stay ahead, and how do you keep in touch with your clients in regards to that?
So the other really interesting thing about this world of cloud and all emerging tech is that one of the fundamental requirements, I would say, for teams that work in this space is an ability and an aptitude to continually learn, and to recognize that the moment you think you're an expert, you need to start to be looking at the next thing, because it's very, very, very easy to get left behind. So I would say that would be how you continue to stay ahead, is just continually learn, look at different learning paths, look at where the business is going, and then how do you bring value to that business as it's going there.
And just the recruiter in me just has a question for our audience who may be attending. So do you have any recommendations for like a course, or I know you were talking about the new grad program, where you get immersed in like a 3-month intensive exposure, right, to our project. Do you have any advice for people who are watching this going, I wonder if that's for me, or I wonder if I can like get a start? So do you have any advice?
I do. I have a bias towards Microsoft. So my advice would be Microsoft Learn is an amazing resource. It's online, it's available to the public. You can browse through learning paths by role, by solution area, by technology. And I would just suggest, if you want to just get started, maybe take a role and just look at what that learning path looks like, read some of the course descriptions, and then start, if you're starting at the beginning, start with the fundamentals, start to learn about the fundamentals of cloud, and then from there you can move along the learning path and start to build your skills and confidence along the way.
Amazing. And so one of the fun questions I like to ask people when I'm speaking with them is, where do you see yourself in the future, right? It's your typical recruiter question. Where do you see yourself, in the next few years? But where do you see yourself? But where do you see emerging tech as well? Where do you see that evolving into?
It's a very interesting question. I would say the last 3 roles I've had, I have not, no one gave me a job description for them. And so in terms of where I see myself in the future, I would say probably in a space that's not defined yet, but that takes advantage very much of the skills and experiences that I have gained so far to date. And I would say the ability to just jump into something, the unknown, a little bit of fearlessness, and map out a way ahead. So that's where I see myself, just doing more of that. And emerging tech is certainly an area where you just, the future is vague. And so I think the other part of it is just being very comfortable with a lot of grays and not having, explicit black and white answers and borders.
Awesome. And so on the flip side a little bit, what made you choose CGI?
So, well, I love CGI for being a tech company. Like, it's like CGI is like, we do tech and that's what we do, and we do it well. So I love that. I love that it's global. I absolutely love that it's headquartered and led out of Canada. But what really closed the deal for me with CGI was my boss and his boss. And so the leadership, I would say, for me personally at this point in my career, is the biggest driver for me. So I need to have tremendous respect and inspiration from my leaders. And when I see that, then they'll have all the discretionary effort they want from me.
I think you and I share that that journey. That I chose CGI because it's a Canadian company, but what's even cooler, it's a global company, and I love that. Right, Canadian company, global company, and we're really trying to like work on the diversity and keep things inclusive. And we're also the great place to work in Canada, which is kind of nice. But definitely leadership. When I met my manager, I was like, I have to work with this person. So, it's interesting, we have that same sort of, reasoning for coming into CGI. So I guess what I wanted to say as well, so, at CGI, we value mental health, and it's always important to take those breaks. So how do you, Sheila Mason, take those breaks? And then how do you encourage your team to take those breaks?
Right. So for me, 100%, I love to swim. I am part of a master's swim club, so I have a very set schedule of my swim practices every week. So that's what I do because when I'm swimming, there's nothing else I can think about. I love to read historical fiction specifically. So that's what I do for my mental fitness and wellness. In terms of my team, I do, I have one-on-ones with each team member every 2 weeks. And I do ask them what they're doing for their mental wellness. I recently shared with them, it's a little map, it's a continuum of mental health, and just, ask them to check where are you on that, and reminded them that sometimes, as our mental health deteriorates, we're not always aware of that. Like it happens very gradually. So sometimes I'm saying, where do you see yourself? Where do you see others on your team? Because sometimes we can see that in others more clearly than where we see ourselves. And just a, gut check, like how do you get back to green if you feel like you're not quite green yet? And I also shared on our internal portal, we do have, as you might know, Yvonne, we have a 30-day calendar of wellness activities that people, you can customize it, but the idea is, can you do one thing every day for yourself? And so I just shared that as an example to encourage the team to, make sure they do at least one thing for themselves every day.
I think that's amazing. For myself personally, dog walking became huge, especially, like dog walking. And what I really like from the leadership that I've received is walking meetings. So if you don't physically need to be in front of your laptop, join the meeting and go for a walk. And that's been a game changer for me. So I don't feel, especially when we have back-to-back meetings, to have those walking meetings has been a real pleasure. And so as we come to the conclusion of our talk, it seems to have gone really fast. But outside of cloud and outside of everything, what's one fun fact about you?
Oh, well, I think one thing I'll share, I'm incredibly proud of Sandra. Oh, and I guess the fun fact is she and I used to dance together. We were in the same ballet class for many years. She is from Ottawa, which is where I'm at. So I love to follow her and her successes in Hollywood.
That is one of the best fun facts I think I've ever heard. That's a really good fun fact. Well, Sheila, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, getting to know what your team does, getting to learn a little bit about emerging tech. I really want to thank you today for sharing that insight and giving us a little glimpse into what you do. To our audience, if you've registered, you can continue the conversation through our roundtable sessions. You get to talk to either Sheila or myself. Again, thank you very much. And thank you for attending the Tech Career Lab. Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Bye.